Why do I keep attracting narcissists in my life? That's a question we see a lot, so let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Kirby. I'm a specialist in trauma and attachment theory, and I shoot these videos every day to try to help people navigate through these darkest times and most difficult, confusing issues about their own behavior and the relationships they're in. Okay, so today we're talking about this question that I see quite frequently in discussion groups online, but also in person, which is, why do I keep attracting narcissists into my life? Maybe it may not be narcissists. Maybe it's like avoidance or bipolar or psychotics or whatever. Why do I keep attracting the bad guys? And it can also be bad women. Why do I keep attracting these into my life? Okay, let's explore that for a second. That's starting from this idea that the attraction system, like whatever's going on with attraction, is happening in some way that I've got something about me which is pulling in more of these bad guys than it's pulling in the good guys, right? There's a bunch of good people out there and they're not coming towards me, but there's a bunch of these bad guys out there and they're coming towards me. And I don't want that anymore. This is mentality I usually see. And what can I do, right? And they'll go to these spiritual gurus and hypnosis classes and meditation retreats and blah, 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 all this other kind of stuff. They'll engage with all these healing modalities in pursuit of this goal, which is like, I've got something unknown, unspoken about me I'm unaware of that is drawing these people to me. And how do I get rid of that? And it's weird because that actually is what's going on, but it's not going on in the way that they think it is, at least in my view. Because, oh man, this is a tough topic. This is my second try, and I'm still having doubts about continuing with this video. Let's push through, and hopefully we'll just see what happens. Here we'll tell a story about going to a social dinner event with a friend who is literally just talking about this in a group class that I was leading. They're literally just sitting there with a group of people saying, I keep attracting these narcissists in my life, and I don't know why that happens, and I wish it would stop, and why can't they just leave me alone? I think that's about as close as a quote as I can get. And so now we leave the group event and we go to a social dinner event. And the social dinner event, there's many people there. There's there's people coming and going. The place where we live there's a lot of travelers, tourists. So people come in, stay for a couple days, couple weeks, and then they'll move on. So at this social dinner event, there's a bunch of old timers, people that live here, and then a bunch of new people too. And it's just like music and sharing, all this other kind of stuff. Well, then this person, there's a guy there, and he's new, and he's sitting there at the table, and he's very boisterous and bold and has signs of confidence. He takes up space. He interjects into conversations. He banters with people. He's got this like strong presence in this area of the table where he's at. And you can see that it's beginning to have this effect on the people around him, right? And they're just like, oh, who's this guy? And they want to, and they're turning towards him and choosing to engage with him, right? Here's a person sitting next to him, and instead of turning to their left and talking with people on the left, their entire body has now shifted to be oriented towards the loud, charismatic person, right? Happens all the time. I see these things. Like this is what it's like to be me in a social environment, is that like I'm noticing all these like social cues and how the people are connecting and their body posture and change in language, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so this dynamic happens, but yet I'm also observing the way this guy interacts with the wait staff. And the way he interacts with the wait staff is definitely has flavors of I'm superior, I'm the person that you're supposed to be serving, and you are incompetent in bringing me what I want. Okay, so I saw that, clear as a bell, gigantic waving red flag in my book. And I'm like, okay, well, this is, there's some people here that are going to be sucked in by this charisma of this person, but he's obviously in a state of compensating for, you know, insecurities inside himself and some kind of anxiety about being enoughness and all that kind of stuff, right? Very likely that's a dynamic that's going on. And then this person who was literally just there saying, I wish the narcissist would just leave me alone, like gets up out of her chair, crosses the room, sits down next to this guy and turns on all the flirtatious charm. And I'm like, that's not a narcissist being attracted. That's not them in some kind of predatory nature hunting you down and choosing you because you're whatever, you're prey, right? That's not a narcissist looking for a supply, although that's in there. Like you chose that guy. And that's one story to paint the picture, the example of what I see over and over again. And I work with clients one on one, oftentimes. I don't know, I couldn't even guess at a percentage about how often this comes up. But I've worked with many clients that have had a history. They come to one of my classes and they are in a state of emotional woundedness and they're trying to find a way back to peace. And then they like what I say, and then they sign up for a session and they come start working with me. And in the time that we're explaining their past or understanding what the dynamics that brought them here, they start using this word, oh, my ex was a narcissist and I'm a victim of narcissistic abuse, right? And it's like, yes, that is a thing. It's totally a thing. And I don't ever mean to dismiss that. But we explore the story more and be like, how did you meet? What was the first interaction like? Like, what was the first 10 interactions like? What did your friends think about this person? Like, what was going on inside your mind, your nervous system? What was it like when you got close to this person in those early stages? And invariably, like 100% of the time, 100% of the time, the description is excitement, this what I describe as euphoria, this like overwhelming, jittery, craving energy that it's like this person's amazing. They've got all these skills and traits and they like do these amazing hobbies and they sail boats and look, there's all these people that look up to him and we would walk into social situations and he attracts all this social attention, social validation, social status, right? Like, if this was less than 100% of the time, I'd be like, okay, maybe there's a different discussion to be had here. But this is so incredibly consistent. And when I look back at my own history with two people that clinical diagnosis of NPD, but then a few others that showed the cluster of behavior patterns that we're going to associate with narcissistic behavior, self-oriented, both self-oriented, selfish, we're going to say selfish, and simultaneously completely dismissive of the state of another, right? That's kind of the way two traits that I'm going to describe as the cluster of behaviors that people usually use to label narcissism. It's really just selfishness combined with dismissiveness at the same time. And then, in extreme cases, that escalates to something that can be emotionally or physically violent, because you can't be emotionally and physically violent if you actually have caring for the other person. Like, if I fully dismissed the other person as worthy of my time, energy, compassion, whatever, then I can dehumanize them. And once we dehumanize them, then I can do whatever I want, right? This is the way human psychology works. It's what we do in war zones. It's what we do in like political war zones. It's what we do in emotional war zones. It's what we do in marriage war zones. So we dehumanize the other so that we can be without compassion. And then we can be completely self-oriented. That's the way I see it anyway. Okay, so I've got two people in my past that have clinical diagnosis, and then I probably have two or three others that have a cluster of traits that we're going to associate with this self-oriented behavior. And I look back at every one of those relationships, and I'm like, oh yeah, 100%. 100% of the time, there was some early indicator, some early trait that I observed about them that I said, oh my God, that's amazing. And I want that in my life. I chose them. I didn't just choose them, I pursued them. Now, sometimes this positive thing that I'm craving is like they're attractive, right? And attractive is always judged by the cultural norms of the time, right? Because when you move back and forth through time or across different cultures, the concept of attractiveness is going to shift greatly. So there's no universal concept of attractiveness. It's always cultural programming. And so I see this person as attractive, and attractive is cultural programming. Attractive is cultural desirability, social status. A person who that culture deems as attractive, or a person who fits that culture's combination of traits that have been declared as attractive, that person will have high social status. What does that mean? High desirability. Many people, on average, will desire closeness, validation, association, approval, of course, sex, right? On average, a higher percentage of that cultural group is going to be desiring that person. And because they have desirability, they have attention. And now we're in economics 101. If you have the attention of many, you have a finite resource. You have a large collection of a finite resource, and now you have power. So that's a little tangent, but it definitely feeds into the idea that we're choosing these people based upon traits that we observe about them. And it is empowering, incredibly empowering, to come to terms with that and say, instead of being in this like state of helplessness where it's like, I don't know what's going on. Why do these people come find me? Why can't they just leave me alone? That's all wrapped up in helplessness. And I don't have agency in this situation. I don't have choice. How do I manipulate or change or heal something inside me, some unspoken hidden thing inside me that'll make, them stop choosing me? Well, that's entirely possible, but it's not the thing you think it is. It's like, it's not heal some spiritual, vibrational, whatever frequency thing, right? Maybe. I don't have expertise in that, so maybe that's a thing. I keep the mind open for that as a possibility. But until such time as we have better evidence for the spiritual, metaphysical frequency angle, let's go with the angle we know. And the angle we know is that attachment wounds create insecurity. Insecurity creates craving, craving for attention, craving for validation, craving for, social status. Because if I have social status, if I have the attention of many on me, then I have value, right? So attachment wounds create insecurity. Insecurity creates a desperate void for attention, love, worthiness, etc. And if I can escalate myself to a position where I'm getting attention, then I can feel good about myself. And one of the best ways or most effective ways to convince our nervous system that I'm valuable and worthy is to get a person with high social status to stand next to me publicly and choose me publicly. Does that make sense? This kind of feeds into another video I'm going to do about attraction. But so I take this theory and I go back in my past and I do an inventory of these various relationships I've had, both with the MPDs and then just selfish people, and then some that are just like volatile. And I'm like, yeah, every time there's some aspect of they're attractive, they're desirable, they're social status, they're lovely, they have traits that I admire. They have traits that other people admire. And then, but more than that, it's that I get them. We get to the point where we're actually entering into a pair bond. And now we're in the pair bond, and I know that the pair bond is happening. And there is this sense of calming, confident assurance that kind of comes into the system initially. It later turns on to anxiety because I'm afraid of losing that. But at the initial stage, there's this euphoria of like, oh my God, they've chosen me. And like, oh my God, this is so great. And then after kind of the euphoria stage, if the euphoria stage ends, sometimes it goes on a long time, there's this kind of like, this sense of like, I've been chosen. I get to feel good about myself. I am proud. Like, I'm proud to have this woman at my side. And there's even a little test you can run for this that we see all the time, which is after the coupling, after the pair bond is initiated, watch for how often that person talks about their relationship to others. And they'll be like, oh, my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that, my girlfriend this, my girlfriend that. Oh, we did this, we did that. Right? You'll also see these wordings where they'll talk about how like he was there and he, let me put on, the smoking jacket of his father, or, the pajamas of his grandmother gave him, or he put a ring on my finger, or he said he loved me, right? These are all verbal, how do we say it? When a person is in that place where they are preoccupied with talking about their new relationship with others, that is almost always driven by this craving inside to say, look, I'm desirable. And it's like you want to broadcast to the world that it says, look, I'm desirable. They want me. Somebody wants me. Somebody's doing special things for me. Somebody said they love me. Somebody's letting me wear grandma's pajamas, right? Look, look, look. And they want to tell the whole world that it's like, I'm desirable. And of course, that's being driven because the attachment wounds are creating a massive insecurity where they feel not desirable. And so they have all this huge euphoric spike of good feelings because the painful void of misery associated with I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not desirable, that void has been filled temporarily by this person. What does that have to do with attracting narcissists? Turns out everything. Because that person that you're labeling as a narcissist is showing up in this world in this like incredibly confident, vivacious, way of just confidence and everything else. Oh, okay. This one's embarrassing. Further evidence of this idea is being in a situation where I'm in relationship with someone and let's just say that the person I'm at least interested in, and we're in a situationship, person I'm interested in is pursuing another. And then at some point at the peak of my chaotic insecurities, back in the days when I was highly dysregulated and volatile, I went and snooped the cell phone, right? Person's in the shower, you open the screen, you say like, hey, what's the last couple of messages that have been going on? Or what's happening? Here's a little app where it's just writing some notes to self, maybe journaling or whatever. And then reviewing this, I'm not proud of this, like, don't do this. But I mean, reviewing this information. And in this information, there is a series of, let's say, journal entries, like notes to self, that where that person is basically listing out all these positive traits of this person, of this that she's chasing, right? And it's super clear to me that the guy that she's chasing is just a self-oriented guy trying to get some tail and, using women for his own advantages. And there's no legs to this relationship. But the things that this person, girl, situationship was writing was all about like, oh, he's got this amazing trait and he's got this amazing trait and he does these things and he does those things. And like, oh my God, he's so dreamy. And in that moment, I got to see into the mind of a woman who's literally chasing a narcissist. And it's just like, whoa, like in this, what I see is that there's no awareness of just how self-oriented and manipulative his whole kind of lifestyle is, and that you're stepping into a situation that you're going to get used. You're stepping into a situation where, but it's like she's chasing after the getting. She's chasing after what I'm going to get from this guy, what I'm going to get from this person that's going to make me feel good. So maybe that person's a narcissist. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're bipolar. Maybe they're crazy. Maybe they're psychotic, avoidant. Who knows? Like, if I'm going to say anything about this, this is really the message I want to say. And that it's just like, it's not that they're coming towards you. It's that you're choosing them almost always. And I'm in some of these support groups where people are talking about this all the time. And I generally keep silent because it's like, they're not really open to any kind of alternate viewpoint. But they'll say, that's idea is not possible. It's like he came towards me and he made me feel loved. He bombed me. He sent me flowers. He said he loved me. He did all this stuff. He let me wear grandma's pajamas. He introduced me to his family. La, 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 la. Like, they'll go through this whole big list of things that person did to make me feel amazing. And because he made me feel amazing, I gave myself to it and I sank into it and I chose him. And I just was like, oh my God, I'm so in love. And then he takes it all away. He's a selfish, evil bastard. Okay. I'm not going to discount that that's the events that happen through your lens. And it's probably even the sequence of events that actually happened. But there's more going on here that you need to understand. The power of the emotions that we feel when that person comes and gives us flowers or puts a ring on my finger or lets me wear grandma's pajamas or whatever, the intensity of emotions that I feel when that happens is directly related to how much lack I have inside myself to begin with. I am empty. I am of a void. I feel lonely. I feel unloved. I just want someone to care about me. I just want someone to want me, choose me, prioritize me. I am desperately desiring and craving a situation where someone will just embrace me and wrap me up with all the feelings of love and craving and desire, and then I'll finally feel good about my life. I have, what they call it, scarcity mindset is what some people call that. I have lack. I have wounds. I have unresolved wounds. I am not complete and whole in myself. Like in one of my other videos, I talk about the half-formed puzzle. I am a half-formed puzzle. And he shows up and gives me some flowers and a ring and lets me wear grandma's pajamas. And what happens in my mind is I say, he is the other half of my puzzle. I can finally feel whole. I can finally feel loved. I can finally feel everything else. And then, of course, that's not real. That's a projection. That is, my emptiness is projecting onto him the answer to my emptiness. And that's why it becomes so exciting. And that's why the emotions run so big. And people believe this is love. This is so effing tragic. And media is not helping. The damn movies and TV shows and romance books and everything else keep pushing this idea that that's what love feels like. And it's like, no, that's attachment panic. If that person shows up with the rings and the flowers and the pajamas and everything else, and I'm cool, I'm fine, I'm chill by myself, I'm having a good life, I've got the hobbies I engage with, the friend groups that I hang out with, the activities that not just keep me busy, but keep me excited. I've got things in my life that motivate me to jump out of bed, even on the worst days, that have nothing to do with external validation. I'm building projects, I'm helping children, I'm whatever, researching, learning a new task, adventuring the world, whatever. If I'm in a place of completeness and just yummy, delicious living with myself, that person shows up with the rings and the flower and the pajamas, and I'm just like, okay, like kind of nice, but I don't need any of this. In fact, what often happens is they show up because that person is so used to being like, this is the ritual of dating, is I'm supposed to show up with rings and flowers and words of love and everything else because that's what's going to get me what I want, right? They're in this like weird transactional dynamic. They show up with all this kind of like, you can call it the love bombing energy or whatever, and it bounces off my nervous system. I don't react. I'm just like, I don't need any of that, dude. Why are you giving me flowers on the second date? Or maybe I'm just like, no, flowers are nice. That's cool. But it doesn't have a big emotional payload. It's just like, he chose to give me flowers. That's nice. I like flowers. They're pretty. They sit on the table. That's cool. But I'm not like, oh my God, I found the love of my life, right? That dynamic is a reflection of the wounds that we have inside. And I lived this. Like, I lived this for years. A woman shows up and she says a couple right things and does a couple right things. And like, basically, I mean, how desperate was I? Like, probably the only really thing she needed to do was prioritize me over someone else. Like, the moment that she's like, oh, there's these people over here asking me to go out, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to come over here and have dinner with you instead. Like, the moment a woman would make that choice, my heart would just like melt. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love. This is meant to be. We're twin flames or soulmates or whatever bullshit stories I had at the time. Not the way. Don't don't walk that path. Yeah. Everything that has to do with attachment is a two-way street, always. It's never one-sided. And the longer that we believe it's one-sided, anytime we believe it's one-sided, we literally take all agency and power I have and just throw it away. I'm the victim here. And I don't have any way to influence the outcome of this dynamic. And that's a terrible place to be. And it keeps us stuck in the loop. Every time you have a compulsion or a thought that says, this is happening to me, it's time for a reframe. Like, you stay in that thought pattern, you will stay in the loop and you will keep having the same relationship dynamics happen over and over again. This is like clockwork. There's trying to think of any example of a case where someone stays in that dynamic, the thought pattern of like, this is happening to me. It's a one-sided dynamic, and see, have I seen any situation like that where that person actually stepped into their power and stepped into a new life? Maybe, but it was filled with resentment. It's almost like they used the pain and resentment to like kind of fuel a bunch of like ego pumping behaviors that get them to a new place, and they say, I don't effing need you anymore. I'm over. Yeah, that's actually pretty common. Okay. That's probably how it works. But why? I do not see that as a superior outcome. I see that as an inferior path. That like, I'm stepping forward. Sure, you're stepping forward in your power. You're using this pain and resentment or whatever you've got to like fuel this like motive to like change your life. Sure. If that's what it takes to change your life, then go for it. But the true transformation, like the real powerful transformation, is going to come when you say, this was a two-way dynamic. And there's some aspect of this dynamic that I chose, I consented to. I literally reached out and grabbed it and pulled it to me and integrated it into my life. And I did that for reasons that are mine and reasons that have to do with my desires, my cravings, my attachment wounds. And the better a person gets at that, saying, what was my part? How did I participate in creating this outcome? And sure, that other person can be a big, nasty, evil, horrible, no good, very bad monster. That can also be true. But if we sit there and just say, he's a no good, very bad monster, and I don't have any agency in it, well, now I'm in a place where I have no agency, which means I can't create my future with intention. It means I don't have any ability to make my life better because this is happening to me. So why do that when we could be in a place and say, oh, yeah, he's a no good, very bad monster, but I chose the no good, very bad monster for bizarre reasons that are inside me that now I know what to look at, what to focus on, where to go with this. And I'm gonna find the parts inside me that were ever attracted to him to begin with. Why was any aspect of me ever attracted to that guy or girl? Like, because they're hot, because they're charismatic, because they're, have money, like, or stuff, or popular. I don't know. Go looking, find it. Find that part that says yes. Dude or girl that has this degree of physical attractiveness, and there's some part of me that just melts and chases like a teenage, you know, young adult romance protagonist. Find that part, get it healed, reshape your entire attraction matrix, and then make your life full and complete and whole. And those people literally bounce off. It was stunning, like stunning. I was at an event here a couple years ago, and this woman walks in that it's almost like the universe teaching me a lesson. And this woman walks in, hot, charismatic, took up space, accomplished, has connection with famous people, blah, blah, like all these positive traits. And I'm just like, wow, that reminds me so much of one of my exes. And then I sat there and watched the way, again, same location. She was working with the wait staff, the way she interacted with the wait staff, the way she interacted with the people around her. That, like, I'm just like, not interested. And at some point, and I'm sitting there basically ignoring her and having conversations with other people. Because honestly, at that point, other people are more interesting, right? Because it's like, I have no interest in playing this little game with you where every conversation and every interaction is being kind of secretly manipulated to fuel your ego and insecurities. Like, I don't need to affirm that, yeah, you're hanging out with some famous person is cool. Like, because honestly, I don't give a shit. So that person's really not interesting anymore. So I'm over here having conversations with other people, just kind of ignoring it. I'm just like, wow, that's a lot like my ex. Well, how funny is that? Whatever. And I ignore it. And then I come over here and I engage the rest of the evening with these other people. And I have some lovely conversations and stuff. But what happens next is what surprised me, what stunned me, is that she came towards me. It was just like she started walking past other people and like came to me and like sat down, had physical contact, on the shoulder, brush of the arm or whatever, like lots of outward gestures of, and I'm just like, girl, I'm not playing your game. And I'm kind of just like, what? Like, what? Okay, what's up? What do you want to talk about? Why are you here? That kind of thing. And she, like, all of her gestures just kept bouncing off. And it was bizarre watching it happen and saying it was effortless on my part. It was not filled with resentment or woundedness or, any kind of emotional charge. It was just this kind of like quiet, patient tolerance for a child that's having a meltdown. They're acting out because they're tired and whatever. And it's just, and I was fine, completely regulated, completely calm in the face of it. I'm not even resentful. It's just like, I'm not interested in playing this game. And because I'm like, I know where this game goes and I know what you have to offer. It's not what I want. And so the interaction ended very quickly. I moved on with my life. No payload, no activation, no harm, no foul. But her, she was pissed, right? She was activated. Like the fact that she came towards me and then it bounced off was, she's like, I don't know, who knows what she's saying. Probably something along the lines of disrespectful or that guy's so such a jerk or so arrogant or whatever, right? That's usually what happens. Don't care. Totally apathetic. And this is what happens when we get our own system under control and we actually heal through those wounds and we know who I am and what I want and where I'm going and what I will tolerate and all that kind of stuff. And when that happens, you stop attracting narcissists. You stop attracting people with bipolar. You stop attracting avoidance. You stop attracting anything that doesn't align with me. And even if you do, it comes close and you're just like, not interested. And then life improves. Simple, not easy. Hard task. But the process is very simple. Heal our own wounds. They go away. Those others, the big bad guys. I hope this has been helpful for people. I know this message is not going to land for a lot of people, but for the people that it does land for, you're the ones that I want to talk to. You're the ones that I create this content for. And I hope you get it. I wish you the best, and I believe in you. Peace.